In today's podcast, we are going to start a short series on infrared saunas and their potential health benefits for people with inflammatory arthritis. Now, you may recall a few weeks ago, I interviewed Sue, and she went into great detail about her two-person seater Sunlighten infrared sauna that she used every single day for the past 12 months, and how much this infrared sauna gave her tremendous improvements with her inflammatory arthritis, in her case, rheumatoid. Now, in that interview, I also presented a study that showed that infrared sauna was beneficial to people with ankylosing spondylitis and rheumatoid arthritis. And this coincided with the personal experience that Sue had had. Now, after that podcast was released, there was a big impact. There was a lot of things that went down after that. First of all, I was contacted by a friend of mine who I hadn't spoken to for some years, and she coincidentally now works at Sunlighten infrared saunas in Melbourne, which is a city in the southern state of Australia. And she told me that on that day, she sold 10 infrared saunas to people with rheumatoid arthritis, which was a massive increase in daily sales for her to people with arthritis. And I had lots of people emailing me for more information, both through email and through my support group, because they're considering, based on that podcast alone, getting an infrared sauna. I had other people emailing me, telling me that they'd been using infrared saunas and had tremendous benefits, and some of them very dependent for their ongoing good health in using these infrared saunas every day. And so with that, it also coincided with the managing director from Sunlighten in the UK contacting me and say, hey, your podcast has created quite a stir amongst our team over here because we've noticed a surge in activity because of this podcast. And so with all that, I thought, wow, there is a lot of interest in infrared saunas. Something is in this. Everything is pointing to a very, very positive outcome for people going and experiencing infrared saunas, particularly on a regular basis. And so what did I do? Well, between that podcast and now, I looked into more of the research, because that's where I like to go back to. What does the science say about this? And so far, I've only found positive supporting evidence, published evidence, showing that infrared is can have positive outcomes on health. I actually had a question about this with our rheumatologist guest each month, Dr. George Munoz. And the question was asked during our monthly live Q&A with Dr. Munoz, are there any health risks to infrared saunas? And I was satisfied with his answer. And the answer only had relationships to some very small nuances regarding some specific medication. And even then, the situation was not very concerning. So I was satisfied with that. And the impact of sweating on top of just the infrared wavelengths also is very, very supportive of the beneficial effects of sweating. And I've gone and actually compiled more of this research and put together another podcast that I'm going to be releasing soon, showing you further scientific evidence of infrared saunas for pesticide detox, heavy metal detox, and also directly impacting the microbiome to create a healthier microbiome with less pathogens and more healthy gut flora. And so with all of this stuff, I went and had my own experience with infrared saunas, and I thought, I got to experience it for myself. So Sunlighten went and gave me a couple of experiences at an infrared sauna place near my house, and I had a really relaxing, comfortable, and pleasant experience. Again, I'll talk about in a later podcast episode as part of a small series on infrared saunas, because I really now have a good satisfaction that this is a very positive thing to have in your house. So I made a decision based on all of this information, both the anecdotal evidence from people's personal experience and my own, and from the scientific evidence. And I spoke to the managing director of Sunlighten and went back to her and said, you know what? I would like to speak with you about sharing the benefits of infrared sauna once again via your viewpoint and your position as being the managing director of this company in the United Kingdom. And I said, we have to set up a discount for my audience because, I feel we can help this organization reach a large number of people. And in return, I would really like to be able to say, you know what? By listening to this podcast and being a part of my rheumatoid arthritis community, there's another benefit, and that is that if you do want to get an infrared sauna, then the company that seems to be leading in this field with some of the benefits we'll hear about, some of the specific unique features about their product shortly, I want to work with them. And that is the company that Sue used for her infrared sauna and the one I experienced. And I just thought, let's do this. Let's get her on the podcast, hear all about the details and how she got involved with infrared saunas and more anecdotal feedback from many other customers that she has had who've bought infrared saunas and are using them frequently. So I'm pleased to be able to invite her onto this podcast. We're going to talk about the partnership that we've set up so that you can access the discount. And also, we were going to do this in a few weeks because I've got a lot of other shows about to be released. However, they have a sale next week, and she said to me, do you want to just do it sooner so that we can get straight into this and have an opportunity for them to access a once-a-year sale that we have next week? And I said, let's do it. Let me do the studies and and my personal experience podcasts afterwards, and let's talk about this opportunity next week and all the other benefits, and let everyone have an opportunity to go and get a sauna on discount next week if they wish to. So without further ado, after my longest introduction of any podcast I've ever done, I'd like to invite Joie Risk, who is the managing director of Sunlighten UK, and say a big hello.
Hi, Clint. I am so happy to be here. And I'm really excited to be on your podcast. It's a really, life's come a little bit full circle. Rheumatoid arthritis was one of the big reasons that got me into working with Sunlighten. And so I can't believe here we are.
Yeah, that's right. And you have told me this story because, when we were, I guess we would say sort of feeling each other out from each of our both perspectives here. And you're one of the very few corporate executives that I've had on this podcast. I normally have health experts and microbiome experts and doctors and things. And so, I haven't made a conscious decision in the past not to have corporate guests. It's just that I've never felt in the past an alignment with a corporation that can offer health benefits over and above what people can get naturally. But when it comes to infrared saunas, you can't make one yourself. You can't step outside on a cold day and get infrared and get ultraviolet and raise your vitamin D, whatever. You just can't do some things that this product offers. And so when we chatted, you said, I'm so passionate because the first product I ever sold was to someone with rheumatoid arthritis. And we just got off on a flying start, just like that. And so tell us that story. Tell us how you sold this infrared sauna and what that person was looking for. And then we'll talk about how you got into where you are today.
Yeah, sure. I was contacted by a lady who had heard about infrared and had been reading for some time about it and how it could help her with her rheumatoid arthritis. And she had a very extreme case where she had, she was hospitalized a couple of times a week. She was in a lot of pain. She had a lot of joint inflammation in her hands, and it really affected her day-to-day life. And she had a small child, and I really felt for her. And there are many health benefits from infrared. And rheumatoid arthritis was something I knew a little bit about, but actually I was compelled to do a bit more research and actually explain to her how exactly the sauna was going to be able to assist her. It became obvious to me that there were, building up the immune system was going to be really important, as well as then getting on top of the more superficial pain and, inflammation that she was experiencing. And we created quite a rapport with each other, and we got along really well. And I sold her, the first sauna that I sold. We still talk to this day regularly, and she tells me about her progress, and she uses it twice a day and has experienced tremendous benefits and impact on her life. And for me, that was such a rewarding part of my journey with Sunlighten, and it continues to be a story that is repeated, which is amazing.
Yes, and what we want to go through today is not just the benefits to the inflammation and swelling and so forth that you mentioned, as we experience when with rheumatoid, but we'll also explore all of the other health benefits, because whilst we get caught up in our own mind that, rheumatoid is like, the main thing when you have the condition, of course, we forget that we also are susceptible to all the other reasons that other people go and buy infrared saunas, like mental health and to improve sleep and to reduce stress and so on. And so we're going to go into those because the inflammation and joint pain can often be so overwhelming. We forget that we also need all these other benefits as well. So we'll get into those and cover those off. And we'll also talk about what's happening with you next week and make sure that we can let people know how they can, if they're at the purchase cycle where they're kind of ready to go pretty soon, then there's a great opportunity next week. And if not, this is going to be really valuable just to learn more if people are thinking about this maybe for the next few months or maybe for next year. So why did you get into this business? How did you get into, selling infrared saunas?
It's a really good question. Again, life takes, I'm amazed at life's journey, and it's not something that I specifically set out to do. Well, what happened for me personally was, I had a different corporate career, and I was studying, some naturopathic chef course in London alongside that. However, I just had my second child, and actually something happened with my health that I had not experienced before in my life, and it was really concerning to me. So I started to feel extremely, my nervous system. I was very stressed. I was very irritable. I had a lot of trouble coping with my day-to-day life. I'd put on a lot of weight, and I'd never been at that weight before, which made me feel very uncomfortable. My sleep was all over the place. I couldn't get enough rest, which of course was compounding all of these other issues. And I was really not in a good state mentally, physically, emotionally. And so then I did a couple of things. I sought out a functional medicine doctor at that point because I knew that in the past I had worked with someone before, and I really wanted to get to the bottom of what was happening holistically. And I had some, very whiz-bang tests done, and it was very alarming because I got my blood work back, and of course was very low on magnesium and all sorts of other minerals which answered why I was mentally going through such a tough time. But also my inflammation markers in my body were at very dangerous levels. So, for me, I was terrified because I thought this is the precursor to every disease that I do not want. It also answered why I couldn't lose weight, and I was feeling very bloated. So, I worked with a really, really lovely doctor, and we looked at a couple of things. And, through my training, I'd come across infrared saunas. And there was actually, at the time, I was very lucky, there was a place around the corner from my home that had one. And I went along and tried it on a Sunday afternoon. And, oh my gosh, I mean, I this is not a lie. I walked out of that session and I immediately felt, I think this is what you talked about as well before. I immediately felt at peace. I felt a stillness. I felt, very, very relaxed, but not in just a physical way. I just had a complete feeling of wellness. And I remember, feeling great. And then that evening, actually, I felt quite sleepy, as you would if you had normal, circadian rhythms running, which hadn't happened for quite a long time. And I was just addicted. So I went back and I continued to use it, and I started to feel better. And I, gradually, easily lost weight. And I just thought, okay, there's something in this, what is this infrared sauna technology? And I started to look around the world at all the brands, because I thought, okay, I need one of these. And I met with Sunlighten, and, just to have a look and see whether it would be appropriate for me to have one in my home. And by far, I was blown away by not only the technology, the safety of the products, that they were specializing in something that was such high quality and such a high level of infrared that it was therapeutic. They had their own clinical studies. And then, I was fortunate enough to meet some of the people who worked there, and they were, an incredible bunch of people who just had, the best values. I've never met anyone, I've never met a corporation like that. And, long story short, we got to talking, and they had wanted to expand into the UK, and given my background, it made a lot of sense. And here we are. So, I just developed this extreme passion for infrared and what it could do. And as I discovered more, I realized this is a therapy which not only is great for health optimization, but can really help so many people, and is natural and is safe, and has evidence behind it.
Yeah. It's hard to find, many downsides, and that was surprising to me. I thought by my digging into this that there'd be something, and I would say, yeah, but because there's so many things that are like that, it's hard to think of something that's not coming from nature that doesn't have something quite significantly sort of side effect related. So, so far I'm yet to see it, and I think that that's why I think it's really exciting. The body is going through a natural experience. You've got infrared coming in now. Infrared is just part of the solar spectrum that we get from the sun on planet Earth. We see the visible spectrum, but we experience, of course, the ultraviolet, the near infrared, the infrared, and it goes on to all sorts of other waves. But, we are getting what the sun naturally produces, and we are sweating, which the body naturally does. We're just sort of creating an environment in which we can do it when we are lacking warm weather. We can do it at our convenience. And there are therapeutic benefits of both the, infrared exposure and also the sweating. And I'll talk about that with my little research presentations that I'll just a couple that I'll put together in a future podcast. So, look, I'm pretty excited. I can see you're excited about what you're doing and doing some great things and help spreading the word through people like myself. So, tell us about sleep. This is something that so many folks are struggling with. Your sleep, you said, improved immediately. I felt very, very relaxed and calm after my treatment, felt sleepy through it in the mid-afternoon, wouldn't mind taking a nap. So do people always talk about how their sleep improves?
Yeah, so it's funny. It's not something that usually comes up with people when we speak to them, but actually, I always talk about it because it's happened with me. but people do talk about it after they've used the sauna. So I think I dug into this deeper, and actually what's happening is, with sleep, the way the infrared works is firstly, you're putting the body in a parasympathetic state. So whilst we are usually in a sympathetic state of fight or flight, or going about our day-to-day life, it's not unless you actively are sitting down, meditating, or doing something or actually sleeping effectively that your body is able to enter that parasympathetic state. And that is key for rest, and it's key for digestion. So by walking into that infrared sauna, your body automatically recognizes, oh, I'm absorbing sun's rays, and actually it's safe, and now I can relax. And so what we found is that then that impact has a knock-on effect on circadian rhythms and regulating those, so that then you're falling asleep at the correct times of the day. You're feeling sleepy when you're supposed to be, as long as you're not putting bright lights and looking at your phone at 2 a.m. And also the other way that the infrared sauna impacts sleep is that you are raising your heart rate, giving the body a moderate sort of cardiovascular workout, which then allows the body to then release stress, reduce cortisol, and set you up for a really good night's sleep. And so far, we've had incredible feedback from people, not just people with RA, anyone who, insomniacs love infrared saunas, because you don't have to take a drug, you don't have to do anything crazy. It is just a very natural way to balance out your sleep cycles. And not only that, the percentage of deep sleep which people then have, so we all have different sleep stages. So the deep sleep stage is where you're doing the most of the repair work in the body, reduction of inflammation, the body's balancing itself out. Some people have a very short deep sleep cycle. What we want to do is try and elongate that. And we know through sleep testing and trackers that using the sauna is directly correlated with having a longer deep sleep section of your nights.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone wants that. There's no doubt about it. Okay. That's obviously fantastic, and I, as I said, personally felt that wonderful sense of calm afterwards. It was surprising to me. I just thought, wow. I think I described it to my wife Melissa as just feel so nice. I just feel so nice afterwards, just so calm and nice. I just didn't expect they would be my descriptive words of calm and nice, but that's how I felt afterwards. Talk about inflammation next, and how the infrared can help with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, inflammation reduction is one of the number one things that really, the infrared, as opposed to a traditional sauna, especially, can really address. And the reason is, and a lot of people ask this question, so how is infrared different, and what are these infrared rays? So as Clint said, they are light waves and part of the sun spectrum. And so the far infrared will normally, and there's 3 different infrared wavelengths, but the far infrared will travel through all the muscle, the tissue, down into sort of the core of the body. And where there is inflammation, it will help to reduce that inflammation and also provide quite a lot of circulation in the body, which tends to then bring down inflammation. So we do have a study about reduction of inflammation and especially pain. So it was a study done with Sunlighten and one of the US universities, and we showed a significant reduction in joint pain as well as flexibility, and it's correlated with low inflammation as well. So it's very, very effective at reducing inflammation, and I think that even when people have weight issues, if that's also connected with inflammation, you can really see it because your people will lose inches quickly, as opposed to just body fat, because it's quite inflammatory. So on a very superficial level, they're very, very effective at reducing pain as well as the inflammation associated.
We were talking on a different conversation when we were just, talking about, stuff offline, that the different wavelengths can have also a different impact in their penetrative depth. So you mentioned the far infrared can go deep, and that the mid and near infrared don't go as deep into the body. And you told me that these shorter wavelengths tend to be absorbed and stop shallower, and therefore they can be more appropriate for the surface inflammation, like in the knuckles and in the joint areas of, which is where a lot of folks with, RA are concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So mid-infrared doesn't penetrate as deep, but it penetrates and sort of stays in that, targets that tissue joint area. And it's a really hard wavelength actually to get into a sauna because it can be really, really hot. But obviously we've done it with solo carbon. So it's very, very effective at reducing inflammation. Then you have near infrared. So near infrared is a very short wavelength. Its wavelength is 880 nanometers. And so, don't want to get too technical, but we deliver it via an LED light. And actually, you need to be really, really close to near infrared in order to absorb the benefits. But that is also going to really help to supercharge cell health, skin, and then also just reduce superficial pain as well. It's very, very effective.
Yeah. Love it. That was something I noticed only by going and sitting in the machine, was seeing the, reading the little manual whilst I was sitting in the sauna, and learning about the different wavelengths and seeing how the whole spectrum is covered within the sauna. So we're not just talking about, a single wavelength. It's a broad spectrum of wavelengths. And so that was interesting.
And yeah, just to distinguish for people, because, broad or a full spectrum is different to, though, I think the one that you tried, Clint. So a full spectrum sauna is what we're talking about, here is a 3-in-1. So we actually deliver sort of like a vitamin. So this is a more targeted vitamin near infrared, as well as mid and as well as far. You can liken a full spectrum sauna to a multivitamin. And so, you get some of the different parts of the wavelength. For people with RA, though, either you could go for far infrared, or really, if you wanted to, you could also go with the 3-in-1, where you're getting those extra dosages of the vitamin, mid or near infrared.
I'll save my study results for a future podcast. A feeling of well-being is something that, I touched upon. I want to talk about that and stress reduction before we talk about what's happening next week. So let's talk about just a feeling of well-being. This was just such as I said, a surprise to me. And you've already explained some of those reasons, that feeling of the parasympathetic nervous system and that feeling that life's good. It feels like you're lying on a summer's day and, on the beach. So is there anything more scientific than that? Because it's hard to describe this, isn't it? Feeling of well-being.
Well, I think that overall, you and I have experienced that feeling of well-being from being in the sauna, because what you're actually experiencing is, from a physical, mental, and a hormonal, emotional level, the sauna is addressing your body in a holistic sense. So physically, you have that cardiovascular, like really moderate cardiovascular heart rate raise. So you feel like you've gone for a brisk walk. So your body is then, quite relaxed. You're mentally, due to that parasympathetic state, and also, I guess, being alone in a sauna with nice chromotherapy lighting, has very positive effects on the mind, and probably stopping the mind chatter and all of that. And then, of course, emotionally and hormonally, your system is at rest, and so your nervous system is able, like if you did a very intense meditation session again, you're internally feeling quite at peace. And so I think it's then, not to mention, you walk out and your skin is great because you've detoxed. So maybe the other scientific part is that so not only is it a sweat, it is a cellular sweat. So the sweat is different in our saunas because we're reaching a cellular level and where you're sweating about 20% toxins. So I know you're going to talk about it later, but it is, we're able to sweat heavy metals and pesticides and anything really that, shouldn't be in the body. And so it's a feeling of, I guess, you've released toxins, your body can rest. And so it's really healing from the inside out. So all of that put together comes to allows you to feel, so balanced when you're out of the sauna.
Yeah, exactly. It's a complete sense of compilation of feelings. Yeah. It's and as a result of all the mechanisms that you're talking about, it's just not one thing. It's the whole experience of the body that feels so natural, which is why you feel naturally better and naturally more healthy afterwards. It's an interesting sort of phenomenon. Let's talk about stress reduction as the last of the four things that I wanted to go over. Again, another hard thing to quantify, another hard thing to say, this study showed exactly that. But, some studies do show things like self-reported outcomes of people who say, now they tick a box a month later and say they rate themselves stressed as a 3 as opposed to a 7 or 8. I'm sort of, giving you no forewarning of this question, but have you got any studies that suggest those kind of outcomes, or is it mostly anecdotal, the feedback about stress reduction?
The studies to do with stress are, it's very difficult to measure stress, I guess, physically. So they are anecdotal. However, it does go hand in hand with all of the other, outcomes that we do see. So there are so many clinical studies. If you reduce pain, you're going to reduce stress. If you reduce blood pressure, you're reducing physical stress in the body, as well as making people feel good. You're also reducing mental stress. So you can't have one thing without the other. But I think that most definitely that stress reduction is very also related to the parasympathetic. So that is, you can't be stressed in a parasympathetic state. And it's very difficult to be in a parasympathetic state when you're in a, warm room. Also, the way that the sauna works is, unlike a traditional sauna where you need to keep getting out and coming back in because it's so hot. Traditional saunas work a little bit differently. But in some people, that can cause stress because you're going to a very hot space, you're raising the heart rate quite quickly, the body's getting very hot. And so for some people, that is stressful on their body. And it's not, you've got to endure sitting in that sauna. Whereas this is going to be more of an experience that you can enjoy and stay for longer periods. So half an hour, some people stay for 45 minutes, an hour, quite comfortably. So you're really giving your body a chance to spend a lot more time in that, good, state and bring down their cortisol levels.
Thank you. Well, they were the sort of four things that I wanted to cover before we talked about the sort of opportunity next week. And I just want to say at this point that everything we've talked about so far is applicable to all infrared saunas. And so if anyone is listening to this, I just want to sort of make the statement that this information is going to help you, even if you want to go in a different direction. If you can't get a Sunlighten sauna nearby because of where you live or for whatever reason, all of this still applies. This is information that can help you with your health and something that you can look into. And I say that, I had a chart when I spoke at Plant Stock about 2 years ago, and I gave a presentation about the different ways to exercise depending on your physical capabilities. Now, on that chart, I explained that if you're really incapacitated, if you really find it difficult to exercise at all because of severe arthritis damage or a current uncontrolled state that you're in or environmental climate reasons, then my recommendation 2 years ago was to use an infrared sauna for your immediate strategy for inflammation reduction to substitute exercise until you can move your body more. So this isn't something new. This is now sort of more of a more detailed deep dive into infrared saunas. What we're now going to do is just talk about your business offer, particularly for next week, and just see if this is something that matches people's timing. If they're interested right now to get a sauna, great. Well, here's an opportunity. So let's talk about that. And also just some specific benefits about Sunlighten's product and a point of difference. I know for example, if I can get your comments around, there are some cheaper products on the market that do have some limitations that people should know about as a consumer, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just to back up, I love your point about that you made the recommendation 2 years ago about using it just as the first plan of attack for not being able to exercise. And actually, we work with a lot of people, whether they be elderly or they've got other issues where they cannot exercise or do not want to, or who live in the UK and the weather is horrendous. A lot of people use the sauna as their cardio or their brisk walk around the block. And it's passive and you don't have to do anything. And if you find it very, very difficult to exercise, it's an amazing way to get that, to get all those endorphins and to get the benefits of exercise. So thanks for reminding me of that. So yeah, about our offer. So the reason that we brought this forward, as Clint said, is we're actually running a really big sale next week on our Solo system, which is our portable sauna. And there's a little bit of an extra discount for for Paddison Program followers. So we definitely can talk about that. But to your point with Sunlighten specifically, yes, as you say, there are quite a number of recreational brands, if we can say, out there that do make infrared saunas. And the thing that you need to be mindful of really is how much infrared is being emitted from the infrared sauna. Because really, if you don't have the quality and quantity of infrared, then you're not going to get the therapeutic benefits that are, stated in all of the scientific evidence. Not to mention, they can also sometimes not be safe to use, whether that is because there are the wood or the materials that the sauna is made from are treated with chemicals, or they're made from, toxic materials, which is what we see a lot. This can sometimes cause off-gassing in a sauna. So then you're reabsorbing even worse toxins than you started with. So I would say that's the second thing to be really mindful of is that quality and quantity of infrared. Sunlighten, we have a patent on our heaters. So we make a very high level of emissivity in our heaters. It's between 95 to 99%. And all of our saunas are non-toxic. Actually, we did some VOC testing and we discovered that being inside one of our saunas is safer than being outside. So the air quality is better. The other thing is obviously EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. So a lot of other more recreational infrared is very high. They don't pay attention to the levels of electromagnetic frequencies. So So Sunlighten, we are ultra low in EMF. We have all of our heaters tested and our saunas tested, and we're very comfortable that when someone's in our sauna as well, it's a virtually undetectable, the EMF. So if people are EMF sensitive or particularly concerned, then they're very, very safe to use. Yeah, I mean, there's not really another brand on the market. We look all the time that does their own heaters. So most other companies tend to use generic sauna heaters. And, there's nothing wrong with that. But you're just creating hot air in a space. There is perhaps at most 30% emissivity of infrared. So you're getting, 99% of quality infrared coming out of Sunlighten saunas. So, and we have, we've got all of the evidence.
Okay, well, thanks for that. That all sounds very reassuring is the word that comes to mind. Now, you basically offered a discount for all Paddison Program or Rheumatoid Solutions audience. Can you talk about that in general terms? And
absolutely.
Then we'll wrap up with what's happening. And we keep saying next week, but when this goes to air, this will be basically right now, because I'm going to have this edited and put together. And by the time this is published, it's going to be right on the time that this offer from your company starts. So first of all, talk about the discount that people can get year round now.
Yeah. So we wanted to really do a special offer for Paddison Program followers. And, I'm so passionate about helping people with rheumatoid arthritis. And so it gives me a lot of pleasure to be able to, to have this program and to offer these discounts. So if you quote the Paddison Program, from now forevermore, we will give you a discount on the saunas of £200 in the UK, $200 in the US and Australia. And if you, if there's something that you are looking at fairly soon, or if you're interested in getting a sauna fairly quickly, what we do from the 12th of October, we have a huge blowout sale for our Solo system, which is the portable sauna. That is really, really great if you're tight on space, and or you have you don't want a cabin. So it's a really, really, it's a really good value option for so many people, and it's very, very popular. So the Solo system is going to be 25% off. It's the lowest we've ever sold it for globally. And we are also offering an additional £100, $100 and $100 off for Paddison Program followers. So you'll be able to either buy the Solo system directly through a link from Clint, or otherwise you're welcome to call us, and we're happy to discuss further and answer any questions that you have, not just about this particular Solo system, but about any other sauna. And, if the timing is not right, it's absolutely fine. We're still really, really happy to talk to anyone who has more questions. Sometimes people do get very overwhelmed by the choices and, this sort of, with saunas, I've had that feedback before, but we really want everyone to be very comfortable and very happy with their purchase. That's the most important thing. So, I'm personally happy to take any emails or messages or questions. And of course, you're more than welcome to speak to any of our team as well.
That's what I've found, actually, which was, again, another positive, is that my friend spends all day on the phone, the one in Melbourne, talking to people interested in buying the saunas and explaining the differences and going through all of the nuances of each machine. Sue, who was our guest, who started all of this process, she has what I believe is the M-Pulse cabin. She has a 2-seater, although that's not really that's more of a comfort thing and a space thing. But in the M Pulse, it has the near, the mid, and the far infrared ranges that you spoke of earlier. The sort of specific vitamins is the example that you gave. Now, the Solo has the far infrared, which is the wavelength range that I looked into for the health benefits offered to the microbiome. And again, I didn't have time to release that. We brought this conversation forward. But certainly the microbiome study that I looked at talks about that specific wavelength and many other health benefits based on that specific wavelength. But I don't want anyone to have buyer's remorse if they're thinking of getting if they thinking of getting the M Pulse, because next week's offer, you've told me the Solo system doesn't have all three of those wavelengths. However, in your personal opinion, it still does a great deal of the effectiveness as a more of a substantial unit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the Solo system, and getting that infrared into the body is so key and has so many benefits that if people don't have space or budget to go for an impulse, it's absolutely irrelevant. Getting into a Solo system. They've got actually the same heaters, the same far infrared heaters as in the impulse. Actually, you can add some near infrared to the impulse by adding. We actually sell a handheld device called a Lumineer, and it's a wand which can be very effective for people who have pain or inflammation in areas of the body that they want to use when they're not using a sauna. If you're watching TV or working, you can just put the wand onto those areas. And so often, if people have lack of space, we will sell them the Solo system with the actual handheld, and you're really getting the best of both worlds. So don't let that stop you from getting a really great experience because you think, oh my gosh, I have to have this whiz bang device, because it's absolutely not the case.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, very good points. The Solo system is a lie down onto some very comfortable portable mats, and the system that Sue had is the one that we all think of when we think of infrared saunas, I guess, which is the cabin style. Very beautiful, by the way. I was surprised how good looking they are. And so I think that's everything we wanted to cover. People can look into this by, I guess, clicking a link that you'll give me because I don't know where this sale is. You'll give me the link. People can click through, and I suppose I need you'll help me help people based on their geographic location to be directed to the right place.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have a link specifically for the UK and US customers, and then also for Australia, we'll get you guys in touch with the Australian office as well.
And for everyone else who's listening right now, not in those countries, who's about to get mad and say, well, what about us? What's the situation there?
Well, that's absolutely fine. Sorry, I didn't mention the rest of the world. How dare I? Please get in touch with us, and we will direct you to the correct country. So we ship all around the world. We have offices in all around the world as well. So it's just that for online sales, those won't be happening through the website, but we can definitely help you and get you one of the saunas if you're located anywhere else. So you can email us or come on to chat on our website on the US or in the UK, and someone will direct you to the right country.
Well, thank you very much. I'm pretty proud. I felt really good with being able to, get this discount out to people who will really benefit from an infrared sauna. It's not something that you've told me. It's not something that is normally, something that's offered. If people just ring up and say, "Hey, I want a discount," it doesn't work like that. This is something that's unique to my audience, and I don't know, it feels good. It's $200. Look, the machines are an investment. They're not something that is something you kind of buy and then replace 6 months later. It's something that you'll have for a long time and you'll use a lot, and hopefully can be very, very helpful in your life. And so, yes, it is an investment, but at the same time, it's nice to shave a few $100 off something like that, because every dollar matters. And I'm grateful. Thank you.
And also, it in this case, in this particular promotion for next week, the discount is actually off it's a discount off the actual 25% off. So it's a stackable discount. So we don't normally do that at all. So it's a really, 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 really good offer. And yeah, to your point, it is an investment. Having an infrared sauna in your home, you also have to make space for it. It's definitely a consideration, but that's why you need a really good quality machine. It can also help you to save money in other areas where you are having to get a massage once a week or having to do other therapies that you might not necessarily need to if you have a sauna in your home. We've spoken to a lot of people recently who've stopped their gym memberships because of COVID, they've figured out ways to train outside of the gym, and they used to go to the gym just for the sauna, and now they've got a sauna in their home, and they're saving their gym membership fee. Other people are saving different therapies where they find that they've got everything they need. So it definitely is something for the long term and for the whole family. So even if there are other people in your family who have different health goals, wellness goals, they can enjoy the sauna. Children can also use the sauna. It's very, very safe for children for limited periods of time. So it can really benefit the whole family's health.
Yeah, they have some very good points as well. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on and talking about all the benefits of infrared sauna, ways in which we can benefit, which includes sleep and inflammation reduction, feeling of well-being in our lives, and also stress reduction. And it was also lovely to hear about how you got into this and how your health improved as well. And thank you for initiating what I hope is going to help lots of people in the community that I'm part of. And hope you have a wonderful sale and hope it all goes well. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Clint. Thank you very much for having us on board.